Welcome to Rauta's opinion video. This time it's a topic that has been recently, well, not all over, but partially taking place on various Rauta videos. And this is partially based on people's feedback during this fall 2023. Basically, it's an age-old topic, but sometimes even older topics need to be readdressed for various reasons. Today's topic that is, should bands actually evolve, progress, change, or stay the same? Because sometimes which way you go doesn't matter. That is, bands are prone to get butthurt, annoyed, or just stay satisfied whatever you do it. Now, this particular topic came to my mind for some of the bands that I've been reviewing this year, and it seems like people are divided into two different camps, but this doesn't of course mean just one band or two bands, but a lot of bands. And one of the reasons why this was sparked was actually Cannibal Corpse's latest album, Chaos Horrific, which I find good, but not that good as some of the previous works. And some of the comments were saying, yeah, it's a band that keeps doing the same album all over again. And that is one of the reasons why I decided to, okay, let's talk about the topic. Now, quick look to Cannibal Corpse. Backlog should give you a little bit of indication. The band started as early as 1988, so 1990 onwards you have had massive amount of albums. Not bedroom black metal massive amount of albums like 40 or so, but still, given it's a band that tours actively, does albums all the time, basically every 2-3 years. And what do? They stick to their guns, they don't change, they don't evolve as such. Basically, the very first album, even if a little bit trashier one, the band has been always the same. That is playing death metal. More maybe on the brutal side of things rather than just, well, easier or more melodic side of things, but we could just call it the compromise ways and say they play death metal. Brutal or not, their style has always been that. And for some people it's a blessing. I mean, whenever you go to buy a new Cannibal Corpse release, it's like buying a carton or bottle of milk. You don't really go wrong with that. You are getting exactly what you're basically looking for. For some people, it might be a disappointment. I mean, after all, sometimes you're like, okay, you're not really evolving, you're not changing, you're not reinventing yourself, and as such, it might be a disappointment. But ask yourself, if you are just going for a bottle of Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, doesn't matter, do you really want something different to happen? Do you really want Pepsi to come up with some weird taste? No, this is bubblegum Pepsi, or this is some, I don't know, juicy fruit sounding and tasting Coca-Cola or whatever. The point here is there are plenty of brands, plenty of bands out there in the world which are always changing, maybe too much for their own good and their fan base as well. But sometimes people are like, yeah, I like when they change, I don't like when they change too much. Which leads us to another example, very different from Cannibal Corpse. There could be plenty of other ones, but I decided to go with the rather big ones, or rather infamous ones that you probably know because you're watching a Rauta channel, not some mainstream television or anything like that. Darkthrone started 1987, so basically roughly the same age as Cannibal Corpse. Have you ever actually occurred to you Darkthrone is actually older band than Cannibal Corpse? I never thought about it, but yeah, it kind of is weird considering that Cannibal Corpse demo came 89, Darkthrone 88. Sounds weird, right, if you really think about it. Because Darkthrone is not exactly known as a death metal band, but then again, they did death metal before Cannibal Corpse. Sounds quite odd if you really think about it. So it started as a death metal band. A few years later, however, it was black metal band. I mean, we're talking mere 4 years here. Well, 5 years if you count whenever it started, 1987 or even 1986. So at max we could talk about 6 years from when the band was founded and whenever they released their first black metal album. But squeezing that a little bit tighter, that is starting as when the demo was released to when the album was released, and you kind of have to include some time before the things are released, actually making them, it's merely 4 years or less. Now, if only Darkthrone stopped changing after death metal to black metal. However, when you fast forward, say, 20 years, 15 years maybe, you're starting to enter this era here. You're talking about the band that more is like heavy metal, or some kind of a punk rock, heavy metal, whatever kind of a mismatch is it, or mixed bag of goodies. And then later on, with a couple of albums like Eternal Hails and Austral Fortress, it's somehow totally different once again. Not maybe exactly the level of like Celtic Frost, but kinda, still, similar, and also different waves. We could also talk about that in bands like Enslaved or whatever, or Tiamat. There are plenty of names which have gone under different changes and phases and all that stuff. That is, not every band gets to be like Iron Maiden, always doing the new wave of British heavy metal after 50 years or so. The moral of the story is basically, if you change too much, indeed you will have some fans hurt and saying like, why did you abandon style? I'm personally very, very hurt by Darkthrone abandoning their style. I mean, for me, these two albums here, Blazing the Northern Sky, but Under Funeral Moon, Transylvanian Hunger. Of course, Blazing is a good album, but I mean, my favorite albums from black metal all the time, they came from this particular band, which are in my books like 10 out of 10. Really, I don't exaggerate here. Whereas the latest album, like Eternal Fails, something like 5 out of 10. My point here is, if only they have kept going with the same style, or rather change the name, do something else if you really have to, but not tarnish the original ways. Same thing could be said about Burzum, and there are plenty of other bands. Now, as we're talking about Cannibal Corpse, all these albums from 1990 debuted and back to live to the late Chaos Horrific 2023. The band never changed their style. They always kept it going. And this is where I'm like, yeah, I kind of get the people who want like change, don't stagnate, progress, evolve something different, start doing different kind of music. And then I'm like, nope. I mean, do it if you're a bad one, but don't if you're a good one already, not to mention great ones. Another good example could be At the Gates. Their early albums, in my books, quite okay. But I only really worship one album, and that's Slaughter of the Soul, which came quite a bit later when the band was founded. That's one of the 10 out of 10 albums. Whenever they started, coming back, they kind of went for the same style, but couldn't be able to pull it off. But I still would rather see them doing whatever they are doing nowadays, rather than whatever they were doing before Slaughter of the Soul. Or if we talk about bands like Carcass, starting grindcore, then changing to melodic death metal, then changing to something else. I can't really say that I worship the whole career. Actually, that's much like At the Gates, but even less in the sense that I only need like one Carcass album in my collection. My point here is, these changes can be really, really interesting in terms of like musical history or from a journalist point of view. But as a fan, would you rather take 10th or 15th solid album from the style you actually like? Be it like Cannibal Corpse, or could it be like Slayer? I don't know. I mean, if they kept going still today and doing good albums, I mean, I would be a happy rabbit here. But when we're talking about the case like Darkthrone here, changing too much, too often, and all that stuff versus what they could have been doing, I feel like I'm kind of all let down. I'm disappointed. So I don't know if there's a one pattern here. I doubt there is. But I would say bands should not change too much. If you need to do something else, go to have side project. If you want to play heavy metal while you're having a black metal band, go do a side project. Give it a go. Plenty of bands have been doing that. But don't change the so-called winning pattern. And the winning pattern doesn't here refer to whatever there is a commercial success or success from journalists or whatever. More like stick to your guns. I mean, if you're known for, I'm gonna use for real metaphor here. If you're known for, say, sports car, think of Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever. Do you really want to be going for tractors. Now, of course, this is a little bit different thing. Can't really compare to art because you could be selling different models at the same time. I mean, that's kind of a silly metaphor in that sense. But the same thing here applies. If you're known for ice cream, do you want to sacrifice your good ice cream business in order to make mediocre pizzas? Whatever. I'm just saying, I kind of understand when people go for let's evolve, let's progress and all that stuff. But also a lot of bands have been ruined because of that. So when people are giving Cannibal Corpse hard time for Chaos Horrific being kind of a boring and the same kind of stuff, yeah, I kind of get it, but at least they're not just betraying their fans by changing to something totally different. And I think that's gotta be worth something. At least it is in my books. But of course, I'm eager to hear what do you think. Do you have your favorite bands that you went along with whatever they put on, whether it's Dark Throne, Celtic Frost, or I don't know, goddamn Tiamat, or whatever? Or are you the very selective fans that you only go with the best premium ones and the rest you don't give a damn? Are you a collector that you have to have all, even if it means owning some subpar albums? Or do you just go for the specific ones, being more like fans of given albums rather than given band? Do you think band need to change and evolve, or can it be stagnant? Does it even matter? What is your opinion? I'm eager to hear it, and if you have some wonderful, well-constructed opinions, maybe we will have dialogue in a video part 2. If not, then this is it. Thanks for your time. Let these ideas sink into your brain and we'll have a talk about it. Catch you later. Rauta out.